Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tatiana Show. I'm so excited to be joined by Jorgensen, the Libertarian Party candidate for president. Thank you so much for joining me on the Tatiana Show today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So where do we even begin? How do you feel entering into such a contentious race this year? It's such a, charged environment. Where do you think that your voice has a place in this cacophonic choir?
Yes, you're right. And it just seems to be getting worse every election. And that's why the Libertarian Party is entering the race at all levels, federal, state, and local, to try to bring some rationality, try to bring some peace, and to get rid of all of this. And really, if you think about it, it's just kind of made up fighting anyway, because both sides want bigger government. And a lot of times you hear, well, we can't pass this because of the other guy. We can't pass that. I mean, heck, even John McCain, when he had the chance to vote against Obamacare, had the chance to get rid of it, voted to keep it. So, it's just a lot of noise. And I think they're doing it on purpose to distract us so that we think that there's a real choice between two different views, and really there's not.
Yeah, I learned that early on in 2012. I became very very, very disappointed with the election process. And it seemed like it was a little bit of a rigged game. How do you ensure that the LP will have a voice? I mean, what's going on with the debates? I know previously they wouldn't let Gary debate. So what's going on with that? Because I need an update on that whole case.
Yes. Well, and there was a case there was an opinion rendered last week about how the debate commission is a private entity and they can make their own rules. However, this is a public election, and a lot of people don't realize the nuances there. All we know is we are the only alternative, and that's why they're keeping us out. In fact, we're on the ballot in all 50 states in the beginning of this century, slightly before then, but turn of the century, 3 presidential elections in a row. We were on the ballot in all 50 states. And so then they started getting worried, like, wow, maybe they're gaining in popularity. How can we quiet them down? Oh, I know, we'll keep them out of the debates. And when we tried to get into debate in 1996, because I was the VP candidate back then, what I heard was, well, the debate commission says no. Well, the debate commission was made up of half Republicans, half Democrats. Of course, they're going to say no. So to more directly answer your question, we're just trying to grow. And we have been ecstatic at all of the people who have been joining our campaign. I cannot believe all the volunteers we have. And what we're really excited about is that so many of them are non-libertarians. And that's very rare for this point in the election. So that's why we're just ecstatic.
Absolutely. But, there are some challenges also in the media, right? The mainstream media is still something that, while people are beginning to question it, they're really pounding the drum, and you have a lot of alternative media being suppressed. Is there a stance that you're taking in terms of the LP's position on should we be controlling social media? And then how can a campaign really cut through if you have that problem?
So first of all, Facebook, Google, they're all private entities, and they can pretty much do whatever they want. I think what they're doing is stupid. They're promoting themselves as the town square, and here's where we all get to talk, and then they start censoring people. That is stupid, but it's not illegal. And I think it's just going to cause more pushback. We've seen in the past that the free market and competition does a much better job of getting alternative choices than the government. In fact, and in this case, it's rather doesn't cost a lot of money to start up a new internet company compared to what it did before. And let me just give you an example. For I'm sure a lot of people, the younger generations, don't know this, but in 1980, the Justice Department went after IBM because they said IBM was so big, nobody can compete with them. And I had a discussion with a socialist who at the time was just so excited. Do you know, if we broke IBM up into 7 different companies, each company would be about the size of boroughs, and boroughs could compete. And of course, most people are going, what's a boroughs? So Burroughs was probably their next main competitor, a very large company. And even the Justice Department, with supposedly enough paperwork generated to go to the moon and back, even they couldn't downsize IBM. So who was able to successfully compete with IBM? 2 guys in their garage starting Apple. So once again, the free market did a much better job of reining in the competition and getting rid of the monopoly than the government ever could.
How can you actually rein in the power of government if you have so many people on the Democratic Party and there's, rhinos running around that don't really believe in smaller government? There's so many incentives and so many bureaucratic issues. How do you start to untangle that?
Well, that's the problem, is that unfortunately the government does have a monopoly that can only be broken really with votes. And they have the power, they've got their lobbyists or special interests and people who put them into power that they owe favors to. And so we've got kind of a closed system here, and that's what makes it so difficult. And so we just need enough people to see that they're not giving us what we want, and they're not giving us really what's best for the country. Now, the good news is there are about 40 to 45 million libertarian-leaning people, voters, who would vote libertarian if we could spread the message. So that's what we're trying to do, is to spread our message.
So speaking of reaching out to new people, the Libertarian Party has grown. We've, of course, gotten a lot of female members, but it's, of course, very male heavy. What would you say is your kind of appeal to bring in and act as a bridge for maybe some other women that are on the fence, both from the right and the left?
Well, I think it's because I offer a practical message. In fact, I got one of my favorite letters I've ever gotten. I got an email from a state activist who's been in the party for 20 years. And he said that his wife was small L libertarian and would grudgingly come to meetings. But after seeing me speak, said, wow, this is what we need against Trump. And after 20 years, she finally joined the party. And I had other people as well who said, well, my friend's not a libertarian, but they saw you speak. And so now they're interested in the party. So I think we just need to explain to people how we can help their lives. Instead of, libertarians typically have been yelling freedom, liberty, yay, without explaining, okay, here's how we can help you get better health care. Here's how you get better quality education for your kids. Here's what we can do. And really speaking to what they're interested in, not just what we're interested in. And in fact, one of my top issues is the environment. And that's something that libertarians have generally just not addressed. But the voters are interested in it, especially younger voters. So we have to talk about it, because if you think about it, it's somewhat of a free market in that we have to provide our best solution and show how our solutions will help them.
Do you think that requires too much of a burden of education? Because I find some of the conversations online that I have really require somebody to have studied Austrian economics, because their premise is so completely wrong. I mean, of course, on the surface, a $15 minimum wage sounds great. Why not 30? Why not 100? Exactly. And really quickly you can kind of break it down, but that takes quite a few steps. And a lot of people, they don't want to go down that logical journey. What is a way that we can kind of mitigate that? And over the years of you supporting the LP and just this message, what has been one of the best ways to actually motivate people to want to learn?
Well, I try to give real life examples. And by the way, I have used the same thing. I did have somebody ask me about, what about raising the minimum wage? And I said, how about raising it to 30 an hour, 50 an hour? And you can see how absurd it is. But I do point out that Statistics show that within 1 year of somebody being hired for a minimum wage job, they're no longer at a minimum wage. It's just a stepping stone to get there. And just look at decades of statistics. The people who are hurt the most are Blacks. So, and I think right now healthcare is a really important issue. And so I point out, okay, the only two, and rather than, again, giving equations and mentioning Austrian economics or even Milton Friedman, what I like to point out is, look, the two specialties in the healthcare field, which are closer to free market, would be cosmetic surgery and LASIK surgery. And if you look at the numbers, their prices have gone down dramatically over the past 20 years, and the quality has gone up because those doctors have to compete for your money. Insurance doesn't pay for that. So they're acting basically like a car dealership or a computer store or something else, where they have to present the best possible price for the best quality. So they have to compete against each other. And then I just broaden it. Wouldn't it be great to have heart surgeons and knee surgeons competing for your business as well? And then I can point to Singapore and the state of Indiana and show that where we've tried it, it works and prices have gone down. And by the way, where we've tried Medicare for all, well, first of all, when I hear Medicare for all, my reaction, my immediate thought is VA hospital for all. We see what a great, how well a monopolistic system in our government works. But all we have to do is look to Hawaii, who tried to have Medicare for all, and it failed within 2 months. And then Vermont, it failed after like 5 or 6 months. So why would you want something that doesn't work?
Well,
so
I think
a very practical message. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I just think that people don't really think of it that way. And I think that it can be very challenging. What are your thoughts on cryptocurrency, for example? Have you been venturing into that as sort of an alternative? I know you've criticized the Federal Reserve before. I mean, there's a lot of interesting history there, and people can look into that. But what do you think about the future of cryptocurrency right now?
Yeah, the Libertarian Party platform is clear. We support free market money systems. That what we have right now is we have a government in charge of our currency who thinks nothing about inflating, about printing more money, which inflates, gives us inflation. So now what we have is we have seniors who see the value of their money leaving. We have people on Social Security who just kind of pray day to day, I hope I get my cost of living increase. We just see a lot of stuff that is not steady. If we have the free market working for you again, then we have a system in which people can get a little more stability.
I see. What do you think about the drug war? And now we have a lot of protests. There's a lot of talk about defunding the police. One of the videos that I recently saw that I thought was very good was Ben Swann's Defund the Police. And I learned that the police provide a majority of cities' revenue because the city budgets are very bloated. So it's sort of this futile exercise where people discuss it, because why would the city ever want to defund essentially their tax collection arm, right? These are taxes that they're slipping by with people. How do you even begin to resolve that? And I mean, I would say that we could start with the drug war, but then there is the question of police. So could you speak to those two topics a little bit?
Sure, I would love to start with the drug war. And I would like to point out that just as alcohol prohibition didn't work, drug prohibition doesn't work either. Most of the problems we're getting are from the prohibition, not the actual drugs. And a lot of people say, well, but maybe people all be strung out on drugs. Well, we're not all strung out on alcohol right now, even though alcohol is legal. And if you look at alcohol, after prohibition ended, use went up a little, peaceful use, but social problems didn't go up, and neither did addiction. And so let's turn to today. When's the last time you heard of a liquor store owner going down the halls of a high school trying to push gin on the students? Or when's the last time you heard of somebody addicted to vodka breaking into houses because he couldn't support his vodka habit? Or when's the last time you heard of two liquor store owners having a shootout amongst each other because somebody stole their best corner? I mean, all of those are prohibition problems, not drug problems. And, where would you rather have people get their drugs from? Organized crime or street gangs and give them the profits? Or would you rather give Philip Morris or Seagram's the profits? And I think most people would say, yeah, let's put it into a law and order situation. So that's why I want to call an end to the drug war and have a drug peace. Not for the drug users necessarily, but for the rest of us, so that we can live peacefully, not have 5-year-olds shot by stray bullets, knowing that we can send our kids to school and not worry about people trying to push drugs on them and so forth.
Great. And so when people talk about defunding the police, do you think that there's a place for competition in police departments? When you think about free market solutions, those may become viable during the next 5 years just because people are very frustrated. They might be a little bit misguided in their attempts. But is there a position in LP for alternative police systems?
Yes. Well, first of all, there already is competition to some degree. I mean, we've got private security guards. We've got malls and businesses that hire their own security. We've got gated communities that have their own security. So again, they've done so without any problem at all. Libertarians in general say that the government does have 3 functions that are legitimate: police, courts, and military. So, of course, great to have a government police. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't also supplement it with private, but that's a perfect function of government, one of the very few. What I would say is our problem that one of the causes of our problems is that we've been having the federal government interfere with the local police departments. If you think about it, crime is a local issue. Assault, robbery, burglary, all those are at a local level. And you need police at the local level to fix that, to respond to that. And if you think about it, you've got different needs for rural areas versus small towns versus large cities. So let's let the cities handle the policing on their own. However, what we've had is the federal government basically asking police departments, hey, do you want a free tank? Do you want a free grenade launcher? Oh, and we'll give you extra money for equipment, and we'll come in and give you training. So now we've got militarized police departments around the country, which just escalates the problem. So now they don't have a protect and serve mentality like it says on the side of the police cars. Now they've got us versus them soldier mentality. And I don't want to be at war with other countries around the world. I certainly don't want to be at war with our own people. So the federal government just needs to get out of it, because you know that the local citizens would not be approving a tax hike so that their police departments can go buy all this equipment.
I see. So you bring up war, and that was one of the things that really attracted me to the Libertarian Party. For a while, there was the lone voice of Tulsi trying to put in an anti-war message, and we saw that she was stifled. How can you address that with people? Do you find that's an issue that's important to voters? Because in a way, it almost feels like America forgot about the importance of not waging war everywhere.
They have. And I think it is sad, and it just shows you how the Democratic Party has so left its roots. It's really sad. They used to be the party anti-war, for free speech, for peace, for getting along. And now we had, for instance, Hillary Clinton running for office in 2016, who was a huge war hawk. And then Tulsi Gabbard comes along, and she's trying to get her message out, her pro-peace message. And the Democratic Party itself, the people who've been ingrained in the party leaders, did everything they could to shut her up. So the Libertarian Party has always been the party of peace, and we continue to be the party of peace. My platform is to turn America into one giant Switzerland, armed and neutral. I want to bring all the troops home, and I want, for instance, there's no reason that we should be subsidizing the military for wealthy Europe, let Germany and France pay for their own military. And worse than the monetary aspect is the fact that it's causing more harm than good most of the time. Look at the Middle East. If, being over there is just antagonizing them more likely that we're going to attack as we did on 9/11. And we had been saying that long before 9/11, that if we're over there causing problems, then they're going to attack us, and they did. So we need to bring our soldiers home and be one giant Switzerland.
So what is going on over the upcoming months? We've got a long time and at the same time a short time, and it's been very, very intense. What's on the agenda to get the message out? Do you have a speaking tour? Are you doing just a lot of press? And are there limitations because of COVID?
Well, there are limitations because of COVID, and COVID is affecting our ballot access too, because basically, as with all government stuff where they've got contradictions and impossible rules to jump through, because we know that, or they know that they like their position of power and they don't want to share it with anyone. What they're telling us in many states is, okay, you need this many signatures. Oh, but you got to stay home because of the virus. So even if we did collect all the signatures and we turned them in, they could say, wait a minute, you obviously went out in public to get these, so now we'll arrest you for that. So it's a lose-lose situation. So yes, the virus is playing a role. Yes, I am doing most of my press from home. However, I'm so excited that we are going to have an in-person convention in July. And then I'm going out to Freedom Fest the week after that. And I do hope to get out there. And I absolutely plan to get out to the states who are having ballot access problems. I did show up in New Hampshire, and where we have to collect, of course, thousands of signatures, which the Democrats and Republicans don't have to do. So any place that we're not on the ballot for, of course, I will be there as soon as I can, law permitting.
What's the best way that people can support you right now?
They can go to joj2020.com. Again, that's joj2020.com. And as I said, you don't have to be a libertarian to go to my website. We are just so overwhelmed with how many non-libertarians are signing up so early. But a lot of people are repeating the same thing the press is repeating. We got two old rich white guys running, and some people are looking at us as an alternative. Now, of course, I offer a much larger alternative with my policies. However, if people want to look at me as offering more alternatives because I'm a woman, I'll take it. So, and I also would encourage your viewers to also vote in November, because as I mentioned, there's about 40 million people out there who are libertarian leaning. If we can just all get together and vote for what we really want rather than what we don't want, we can make some real progress.
I hope so. What do you think about taking away the votes from one person and the other person? Because some people question principle or, practicality.
Yes, a lot of people, there's a myth out there that we take more votes from the Republicans. Actually, we take votes equally from the right and left. But where we take most of our votes, or where we get most of our votes, are independents or people who haven't voted. So as far as the left guy or the right guy not winning, that's really not as much of an issue as most people think. And besides, most of those people really don't want what they're offering now anyway. For the second time in at least modern history, we've got the two major candidates with negative poll numbers. So why vote for somebody you don't want?
It sounds like an opportunity, and I'm absolutely going to be following your campaign. We have your VP pick coming on the Tatiana Show soon. So thank you so much for making the time today on the Tatiana Show. And everybody, please make sure to go and check out the website for the LP and register and do all that good stuff. Get involved. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. What's the point of all this technology without a little love in our lives? Our hosts, Tatiana Moroz, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kasovitz, have come together to bring you Proof of Love. Go to proofoflovecast.com. The Tatiana Show has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond. Hey there, it's time for the show. The Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. We gotta think and reflect and use lots of intellect with our hearts when we work together. I know that it can be so hard out there, looking all around and saying that life ain't fair. So that is why we will fight and stay up late at night, listening to the Tatiana Show. Thank you for listening to the Tatiana Show. Please follow us on Twitter at Queen Tatiana or on Facebook and Instagram at Tatiana Moroz Music. More episodes can be found at thetatianashow.com, and make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. You are listening to The Tatiana Show. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on The Tatiana Show is intended as financial advice, legal advice, or really anything other than entertainment. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're listening to us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on or of any sponsors or any affiliate products you may hear about on this show.